Good day, everyone. This is Meredith Leon McCormick for World Bride Magazine. As we are gearing up for New York Bridal Fashion Week, we have the pleasure and the honor to speak to a very wonderful organization that was brought to my attention. It is Vow for Girls. This is a little bit off topic from what we usually have discussions about. We usually take things a little bit lighter, meaning we talk about the dress, the travel, the makeup, the cake, and all this wonderful stuff. Today, the topic is going to be a little bit heavier. Why? Because it is something that impacts our community completely. And even as you have seen, all of us have seen through 2020, we are all connected in every single way. So now I have the honor and the pleasure to introduce to you Clay Dunn, who is the CEO of Vow for Girls. Hi, Clay.
Hi, Meredith. Thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm great.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm so excited to speak to you and find out that you are also my neighbor here in Brooklyn.
We are indeed just a few blocks away.
So I love that. I love that. So like I mentioned in the intro, this topic is a little bit sensitive and heavier than we usually talk about, but it is very important that we have this conversation. Like I was mentioning to you earlier, my first introduction to Vow for Girls was through Justin Alexander, who is one of my favorite designers. And then it was brought to my attention from Maya from Bridal. And then Elodie called me and said, hey, would you like to help us celebrate Vow for Girls during Bridal Market Week? And I'm like, absolutely. So I'm so honored to have you with me to have this conversation.
I'm honored to be here.
Wonderful. So before we get started, I wanted you to give us a little bit about your background and who you are and the role you play in the organization.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm Clay Dunn. I'm the CEO of Vow for Girls. Vow's a newer organization. We're just coming up on our third birthday. Our vision is a world in which no child is ever a bride. We can talk about the issue of child marriage in a little bit. But I'm someone who I had a whole career before this as an entertainment marketer. I worked in movies and TV, most recently at National Geographic. And I was looking for more purpose in my life and in my career. And I made a big pivot to work in nonprofits. And I came to Vow for Girls because I was so inspired by the founder's vision for what this organization could do to support girls. And, on a personal level, I grew up in a really poor rural place in Western Kentucky, like a place where there isn't a lot of opportunity. And honestly, I looked around, I didn't see a life that I wanted there. And getting an education was an opportunity for me to get a life that I wanted to live. And that's the same thing we're supporting at Vow for Girls, giving girls opportunity, helping them get an education, skills, leadership, all these things that let them live lives that they love and not become brides.
Wow. So I was jotting down some notes as you were speaking. You mentioned that you were from Kentucky, a rural community, and you saw education as an exit for you to live a fulfilling life. So, which is very interesting because that is actually the mission, from what I understand, Vow for Girls is. It is giving young girls, literally girls, we're talking about minors that don't have a voice, a say in how they choose to live their life when it comes to family and marriage. While we, from the Western society, we realize that marriage is your choice, whether we want it or not. And unfortunately, some of us have access to it and others don't. But at the same time, it's usually two consenting adults that make this commitment to each other in front of, 10 people or 1,000 people, depending on your culture. But this organization introduces to us a very sensitive topic where young women, and from what I see, there's a quote in the notes that I have. It says, count to 3, a child just became a bride. And these are the things that are happening and stated in the notes, even in America, it's still happening. So tell us a little bit about Vow for Girls and their mission.
Yeah, for sure. So child marriage is a really big issue, just like you said. Like, it's 12 million girls every year become child brides. That's a staggering number. It is a girl every 3 seconds somewhere in the world becoming a bride. This is not a problem that's specific to like one place, or that is a really a far away problem. Like, it's a truly global problem. It happens across countries, across cultures, across religions. And you're right, it happens here in the US. It's still legal in 44 states to marry a child. We define a child, the universal definition, anyone who's below the age of 18. Child marriage looks a lot different in different parts of the world. In some cultures, we're talking about girls as young as like 8 years old becoming brides. We're not talking about marriages by choice. Like, this isn't a Romeo and Juliet problem, right? It's a decision that's being made for a girl. She has no say in that decision, and it impacts all the decisions for her life that come after that.
Wow.
The founder of Val is this amazing woman named Mabel, and she's been a global human rights activist for a long time. And she has, for the last decade, focused on the issue of child marriage as sort of her signature issue. And in traveling around the world and meeting with local leaders, she saw how little resources these community groups in places all around the world have in order to support girls. And that's one of the reasons that she decided to create Val. Like, honestly, Val was inspired by a wedding. She went to a friend's wedding, and they asked for charitable donations instead of gifts. And thinking about their generosity and looking around at how nice the wedding was, and thinking about the business of weddings around the world, Mabel had this like aha moment. She's like, what if in bringing people together to celebrate love, that we could also support girls at the same time, and help bring new resources to girls having a say over their futures. And that's where Val came from. She went to her friend Darren Walker, who's the head of the Ford Foundation, and together they launched this organization, Val for Girls.
This is amazing. I love everything about it, and I'm so proud to be able to interview you about this organization and learn firsthand and introduce it to our readers and our viewers about the history of the organization, how organic it came about, and how I noticed that you guys have some pretty powerful names that's attached to this organization. You have Lucy Hale, Kristen Bell, who's one of my past clients in my past manicuring life, Shay Mitchell, Christy Turlington, another past client from my manicuring life, Robin Wright, another past client. So all those names resonate. Helena Christensen, Garrett Clayton, Stella. We love to see all these wonderful names. And one of my all-time favorite business gurus is Mr. Richard Branson.
Yes,
so
indeed.
you have the best of the best that came out to support this very important issue. And like, a couple of your statements, this is not a issue that is something we're making up, because, I have to put the elephant in, acknowledge an elephant in the room. As Westerners and as Americans and Europeans, we tend to want to impose, not all, impose some of our views and preferences and choices on other cultures, and then point the finger and say, you shouldn't do this. We want to police everybody else while we have issues in our own backyard. But I'm finding out that that's not what your organization is doing. They're not addressing, the arranged marriages that people willingly still do, which is customary. You're talking about children that are not choosing for themselves. That's the key word. The child, the girl, is not choosing for herself the choice to get married or who she's getting married to. She is being put in these situations without a word, and now has to live out this life with someone that's not of her choice. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. I mean, something that I think you really hit on something there in terms of, let's face it, like a place where Val has a lot of grantees, like Uganda, for instance. Like we support a lot of organizations in Uganda. I don't know the first thing about what local organizations should do to end child marriage in their community, right? Our model is really different from that. It's based around going to communities, making it known that we're bringing funding and the funding is available, and local leaders telling us what they want to do to support girls in their own communities. And that's why when you look, and we're really lucky to have this amazing collection of grantees around the world. Like in our first 2 years, it's more than 175 local organizations. 85% of them are women led. And because it's those women coming forward and saying, this is what will help girls in my community and what I want to do, the kinds of things that we're supporting are really diverse. So some of it is about like helping to keep girls in school. Other is about like teaching them some skills and job training so that they can make some money and support themselves, not be seen as a financial burden with their families. A lot of it's around sort of leadership and empowerment, like making sure that girls know their rights. And if someone is trying to marry them off, that they know what they can do to prevent that. So, I mean, we view ourselves as a learning organization, right? Like we make these funds available. These local leaders are doing the work. We're learning along with them. And, it's really a shift of power we view to those local leaders. Like, for most of them, our funding is the first time they've ever received any international funding, and it's helping them to expand their work and the number of girls that they're able to support. And we're just proud to partner with them.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's something very key that we have to understand, and everybody that's watching and listening to this is that you are actually working with the local communities that you provide funding to. And you're doing it through education. So you're encouraging education, human rights, job training, vital things that children, families will need to have access to so that they can make smarter decisions instead of using their daughters or getting rid of their daughters or putting their daughters in compromising situations against their will. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, absolutely. And one good news piece about this, Meredith, is that global trends are on our side here. Like believe it or not, the rate of child marriage used to even be substantially higher, like more than 15 million girls every year at a recent point. And more and more countries and communities are realizing that putting women in charge of their own futures and letting them make decisions about who they love, who they'll marry, have great consequences, because a girl who is able to make those choices for herself, she's more educated, she enjoys better health over time because she doesn't have to do things like have a child before her body is ready. She's able to provide for her family more consistently. And, a lot of the places where we're working and funding, child marriage is actually already illegal. Like Uganda, back to that example, they have outlawed child marriage as a country, but it's still happening at the community level at a high rate. And what we're doing is supporting these women at the grassroots level, working in communities who are talking to families and, talking to them about this culture change that needs to happen and, why girls should be put in charge of their own futures.
Wow, that's amazing. Again, I love the fact that you're working with the community leaders themselves that live the situation. It's one thing to come in and give somebody something, but without education, how do they use it? How do they continue to use it to their benefit once you're gone, once the money runs out?
Yeah.
So according to my notes, since the founding of the organization, 150 community-based organizations you guys have worked with in 6 countries. They've received grants, and 90% of the grantees are women and women-led organizations. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. There are a few more grantees now that we've been able to bring on board. And, in these first 2 years working in these 6 countries, this amazing collection of women, it's been really successful. Like more than 266,000 girls impacted directly, and something like 1.2 million people impacted indirectly by the work and by the funding. But, it's just the tip of what's needed, right? Like The need is a lot greater. The idea is that as we engage more people in this work, that we build more awareness and more funding, it means that we can support more organizations and more communities, and therefore more girls.
That's amazing. Congratulations. So now, October 4th through the 11th, we're going to talk about that. For me, that's a fun time because that's when New York Bridal Fashion Week comes into town. Even with COVID, we're seeing it virtually. Now, some designers are taking the chance and going out and doing it physically. And I'm excited to be attending a few of them. What will you guys be doing in accordance with it?
Yeah. So sort of running at the same time as the Bridal Fashion Week, we have a great campaign that's called Stop the Clock, which is an opportunity to raise awareness and some funds to help support girls. So October 11th happens to be International Day of the Girl. Most of you have probably never heard of International Day of the Girl. It's like a globally recognized opportunity to celebrate the potential and the power of girls. And our Stop the Clock campaign is running from October 4 through 11. It's called Stop the Clock because it's a nod to that statistic that every 3 seconds a child becomes a bride. We have a really simple set of tools that people can use to share messages about our work, and with some really great graphics that feature young women around the world who are impacted by our work. And thanks to generous partners like Justin Alexander, like The Knot, and some others, $1 will be donated every time you share, like, or comment on the content, which is really exciting, up to $100,000. So you get to help money be donated just by participating in the campaign and sharing the content. And you can share it wherever you're active online. Like if Facebook's your platform, that's great. If you're more of a Twitter person, Insta, like whatever works for you, you can share it there. It'll count for the campaign.
Wonderful. Well, World Bride Magazine is definitely joining that.
Thank you.
Campaign. No, we're totally excited. You know, I am so proud to be a part of this. So now, what is it that you told us a little bit, you want us to share? How will our readers, our brides, our grooms, our fans, and our supporters be able to help support your activation? Not only just for October 4th and through the 11th, but beyond. How can we support?
Absolutely. There are 2 things you can do really easy. You can go to our website. It's valforgirls.org. There you'll find a lot of information about how you can get involved, find the option that's right for you and who you are in your life. So valforgirls.org. The other is, I would really encourage you to follow us on social media. You can find out all about the campaign there and get the assets across every platform. We're at Val for Girls. Find us there, join the community. There's a lot of joy in what we're doing and supporting girls and lifting up their voices, and we really want you to be a part of it.
Yay, thank you so much. Do you have any last minute things that you want to tell our readers about this activation, and that I probably have missed? Because I love the conversation and I could go on for hours about what it can do and for who it can do it for, but we're going to have to cut it short for now. But if you have any last minute things that you want to share with us.
I would just say, like, you know, whether or not you care about education or health or personal safety or girls' rights or economic empowerment and justice, like, this is an issue that's for you. Like, child marriage so ties into all those issues. It's an issue that needs more attention and more support. Please be a part of our community. We'll make you proud. We'll do some good impact together.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Clay. This was a wonderful conversation, and I am proud to have had it with you. So guys, that was it. So Val for Girls, World Bride Magazine is taking the initiative to lead with our group and with you, our fans, and we hope you could come in and support it. As you guys have known so much about me, I have been a proud supporter of the HBCU colleges, United Negro College Fund. And you know, education is the most important thing for me. I try my very best with every interview to bring to you guys powerful people that are making change in our community that's going to better life for us now and in the future. So please continue to support World Bride Magazine and anyone we present to you. And right now we're asking for your support for Val for Girls. So please go to their website and see what you can donate. Anything will support, because this is not about going into a community and changing their trajectory and their custom, but it is about working with the communities and educating their people to show that these young women, young girls should have an opportunity to get educated and to play and be girls at this short period of their life. Because once we're adults, it's over. While we have the choices here in America, in Europe, and other parts of the world to choose who we want to marry, not everyone has that privilege. So if we can support Val for Girls, it will be greatly appreciated. So until the next time, ciao bella.